Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Business Builders Podcast. My name is Tom Borg, your host, and with us, we have him back, Mr. Alex Fisher. Alex is an entrepreneur and investor. Alex, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Tom. Good to see you again.
Hey, Alex, I know you're really into the commercial space industry, and you got some exciting cutting edge news every time I chat with you. What's happening today?
Yeah, there a ton of stuff as usual. I think we we talked not that long ago, and it just seems like there's been so many things that have happened since then. It's hard to choose, but I'll just kind of maybe start with the most recent that comes to mind, and I'm sure some other stuff will pop out from that. But the big news today is just what is it? But it's about 11:30, so about 2 hours ago, NASA and Axiom Space unveiled the new spacesuit that's going to be used for the upcoming mission to the moon in scheduled for 2025. So, if you look at the suits that astronauts wore on the moon landings years ago, or the suits they use for spacewalks on the International Space Station, these are all decades old designs that go back a long ways away. And so mobility and technology is all very old in these current suits. So they're developing a new suit that's going to be for the upcoming moon landings, and it's really exciting to see. Humanity's going back to the moon and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's different about these suits that's different from the previous style?
Yeah, there's just been so many different advances in material sciences and technology over the last 30, 40, 50 years. Things like how do you get in and out of a suit?
Mm.
In the past, you kind of had to slide into the pants and then have someone put the top part over you, and had big bulky kind of gears and airlocks. So it's just a lot more streamlined. The technology for heating and cooling and keeping the astronauts just able to move better without overexerting themselves. It'll make exploration and science and mobility on the moon that much more easier.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned in our previous conversation that these suits are not going to be the type where the old suits were, if they fell down or they fall down more often wearing these things because they were hard to walk about with these things on. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, just be easier to move around. So if you did fall on the moon, it'd be easier to get up.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of side effects. Do you get moon dust all over your suit if you're falling down? Yes. And what do you do with that moon dust when you get out of the suit? It can be very dangerous to human lungs, and there's all sorts of kind of second and third order effects that'll hopefully improve with this new suit, new technology.
Sure. Well, you think about businesses and you think about what's been happening with the commercial space, the idea of travel to the moon, into space, and these advancements that they're starting to make. Why did it take so long for some of these advancements to take place? For instance, like the spacesuit.
Yeah, so for decades, space wasn't commercial. It was locked up in a couple of governments and large organizations and defense contractors, and
Mm-hmm.
we've seen that dramatically change over the last 10 years, and that's because of the U.S. government and ESA and Europe and and NASA, working with companies, first like SpaceX, and there are even companies before SpaceX that really, took the brunt of trying to figure out how to work with government and defense, as a commercial entity. So we're
Mm-hmm.
at the point now where we've reached the tipping point, and things have really been accelerating. Everything from SpaceX's Starship is getting close to its first launch, so moving great amounts of mass into orbit on a single rocket launch in what used to take maybe hundreds of rocket launches.
Wow.
Anytime you encounter a new frontier where you make it easier, safer, more efficient to move people, goods, data back and forth, really that's where opportunity lies. So kind of linking it back to a business, if you're skating to where the puck is instead of where it is, it's really important to look at, all right, so what are people doing today? That's great. Where are people going tomorrow, and where are those challenges tomorrow, and then preparing for that. Because if you wait till those are obvious and no risk, I
Mm-hmm.
think your opportunity really kind of disappears. So from a
Mm-hmm.
business perspective, I like to always see what's bleeding edge. You can be too ahead of things, but I
Mm.
think if you balance it at being not too far ahead and not too far behind, there's all sorts of interesting opportunities for businesses new and old.
Sure. And I think that comes with an open mind. Would you say, Alex, if a
Yeah.
business owner or a leadership team, they look and say, hey, well, let's see what's possible, what's the potential, rather than saying, hey, this is the way we've always done it. That's just a waste of money. There's no reason to try something that might fail. That is kind of doomsday thinking when it comes to really taking advantage of any changes in the market or actually creating changes in the market by that type of forward thinking.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And you can look at look throughout history to all sorts of new frontiers, whether it's you know uh, the Americas or the West or um, telecommunications, TV, radio, the internet, blockchain. There's all sorts of new frontiers where there's lots of unknowns and there's lots of shiny things, right? So if it's the gold
Mm,
rush, I mean,
that's right.
there were some people certainly got very rich off that. There were also people selling the pickaxes and shovels, right? That's a pretty common
Mm-hmm.
theme, and space will be the same way. There's you don't have to go build a rocket company to be a space company anymore. You can come up with an idea for a great camera for taking pictures, or a great technology for moving data around, or there's all sorts of smaller, more discrete problem sets that come as a result of these kind of bigger, broader moves into new frontiers. And I think there's just an unlimited number of opportunities. And so really looking at where your expertise is as an entrepreneur or business owner, either
Mm-hmm.
current or maybe future business owner,
Mm-hmm.
pairing up those experiences and your knowledge with the kind of broader problem set of how do we move humanity into space. It's just it's going to be an opportunity of a lifetime. It's just there's no
Mm-hmm.
bigger frontier that
Mm-hmm.
humanity's ever been exposed to.
Sure. So then to say what you said a little differently, and that is look at your own business, look at the different types of changes that are happening around us, and say, for instance, this in the space industry, that could be one place where you could find opportunity, just taking what you do with your business, how can you leverage that to solve some of the smaller problems that are going to come about based on these new initiatives or these new movements in the economy.
Yeah, and I would even just add that there's kind of a bonus. Um, there's kind of a bonus to this, in that this is not like going to space is not a new thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that we've been putting billions of dollars and man hours into developing new technologies and identifying problems. And there's vast amounts of research that's open to the public. Even like you can go look at things that NASA did 40 years ago, either at NASA or JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And there's just like stuff people invented and papers people wrote that no one's ever had time to follow up on.
Hmm.
And now that we're opening this up, you can have an idea, you can start a business in your spare room or your garage, and you can put something to space now.
Hmm.
It's just there's an amazing archive of past experience that we can draw from, and that we're just opening up. It just really can help you supercharge, I think, new
Mm-hmm.
ideas and opportunities.
Yeah, so it's like a whole new frontier that's right there in front of us, and it's starting to materialize as we see the different things that are happening that we can actually see are going to develop and become greater and bigger opportunities.
Yep. Yeah, and I think when people start thinking about what are my skill set, it doesn't you don't have to be a you don't have to be a physicist or a rocket scientist. It can think about what am I good at. For example, if you were I'm just trying to think of a kind of wild example. Let's say you're a lawyer, right? Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
you're an artist, there's all sorts of needs for space law and regulation
Mm-hmm.
is not clear. We have
Mm.
FAA, we have the FCC, we have NASA, we have all these other agencies. It's not clear how do you actually put things into space. Now that we can do that easier, how do you put it there? How do you communicate with it? All sorts of unknowns. So if you're a lawyer,
Mm.
even though you're not a rocket scientist, you could apply your skills to this new frontier. If you're an
Mm-hmm.
artist, there's going to be a need for advertising and marketing of these things. There's all sorts of startups. If say you do imports and exports, like we
Mm-hmm.
always think about exporting stuff to space. Well, there's going to be a need as we start manufacturing and doing more science in space. We're going to have to bring it back to Earth. So how do we import from space?
Mm.
And
Yes.
what are the logistics of that? So you could be working at UPS for the last 20 years, thinking about trucks and planes. Now it's all right, how do we move stuff in capsules to and from space? So I just think that whatever your profession and skill set, space is just going to give you that much more opportunity to kind of realize that.
Yes. Wow, that's exciting. Yeah, there's just so many options. I guess there's the key. What we want our listeners to tune into is it's a matter of thinking differently than you've thought in the past. As these things unfold, they're just great examples of how opportunities are everywhere. It's just the fact that we need to be aware of them, decide which ones we want to go after, how we can leverage what we do with our business to help other people through our services or products to remedy these new opportunities that are out there. That's what it sounds like.
Yep. Yeah, and I would add to it that geography, it can still be important, but you could be in the remotest part of the country. You could be in a third world country. You can do this stuff where you're at. You don't necessarily have to be in Florida or Texas or LA or Seattle. Those are
Mm.
great places, and I love visiting companies there. And you do get a lot from being in maybe these kind of hubs, space hubs.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that you can be a company anywhere these days with technology and Zoom and Google. So I would just say don't put boundaries on yourself. It's a wide world, and we have the internet now, right? So we can
Mm-hmm.
do this stuff from wherever we're at.
Right. That's a great point. Don't put boundaries on ourselves. And it's true. I mean, so many businesses that I know have been transformed because they're doing a lot of it hybrid or they're strictly offsite. People are working from home. And the certain businesses can't do all of that because of what they're doing, but many of them are to some degree. So you're right. Being able to look at the world with new eyes, uh, new viewpoints, and not let our old prejudices hold us back from seeing the opportunities that are right in front of us.
Yeah, and now I'm a computer nerd. I like software. I've had years where I was a programmer.
Hmm.
Not every job is that way, right? We need, especially in space, we need hard tech, we need hardware, we need physical things. It's great. I was out in Denver at a space company that makes rocket propulsion engines.
Hmm.
So I got to see a couple test firings of a new rocket engine. I got to see people using their hands to build these engines, and these are going to power the next rockets and hypersonics and all sorts of interesting things. So being there in person, doing physical things with hardware is important. It's going to continue to be important, but there's software that powers those engines. There's marketing and legal and HR and management. All that stuff sometimes needs to be on site, can be remote. So it just it depends what your forte is, what your skills are, and what you're trying to do.
Sounds outstanding. Sounds exciting. Well, all right. Well, we'll wrap it up here. So, any words of wisdom or insight that you want to close our program with today?
Um, well, I, I didn't have anything prepared, but I guess we're coming off of um, an interesting week in the U.S. financial and banking system,
Hmm.
with the second largest bank failure in U.S. history, the Silicon Valley Bank. It's been a bit of a whirlwind over the last 6, 7, 8 days. But I'll say that as wild as these times can be, and there's always endings, they also denote new beginnings and opportunities. So I would just say that even though there's all sorts of unknowns, it's always going to be that way. Some of the best companies are built during recessions or depressions, or with less than perfect information. So I would just say, don't wait to get started.
Hmm.
There's never a better time than today. And problems are part of the game. If there weren't problems to solve, we wouldn't need to build the solutions. So
That's right.
therein lies the opportunity.
That's right. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Alex. Listen, I know our listeners have picked up loads of little ideas that can help them in their thinking process. And that's the key, is how we think. And that's what leads to the actions that we take. And that's going to lead to the results we're going to ultimately get. So we appreciate you're a creative, free thinker, and you're always thinking way, way, way ahead of the game. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Tom.